Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm going to be going over today's trade recap, what I ended up taking today. Unfortunately, I did actually, well, not really unfortunately. Well, it is kind of unfortunate. I ended up getting break even today on today's trade. So overall, coming into market open, what I was thinking was kind of pretty obviously more bearish. Reason being is because we are rejecting out of this daily gap. We had a resweep of the high inside of the daily gap, and overall, if we look at the especially even the 15-minute here, like you can see we're in a clear sell model down to these lows. And at this, I was actually just looking for a continuation lower, if anything, because overall coming into market open, and the structure here within this leg, we had like end of London session kind of expanded lower here, took out a lot of draws, so overall wasn't really too keen coming into market open. Was pretty like terrible conditions. But let's go over the trade that I ended up taking. And what was I expecting? So what I was expecting was either one of two options. So we either could have came up here and ended up tapping into this 30-minute fair value gap, coming back to CE of the range of this entire leg, which we had going on right here, and which, as you can see, aligns with this 30-minute fair value gap that we have. And if we came there and then rejected out of that gap and then got any sort of kind of sponsored continuation, I would have been all down to take some shorts from there, right? So market open here, as we can see, ends up opening kind of lower here, and then we get presented with like this 30-second kind of setup down here. Now, the problem with this setup and why it is kind of a donut trade, if you took it, fair enough, but there's really no key level here, and if you're really using like a 15-minute gap from the 17th, which is like 2 weeks ago or whatever, it's just not really valid. Like, we've already tapped this 15-minute fair value gap down here, there is no 15-minute fair value gap. Damn, what am I even talking about then? There's just no key level. I mean, there's no key level, there's no good structure higher, there's no really real reason for us to actually go higher, except if you were predicting a retrace. But again, we don't predict things in the market. We can predict things and guess things, but we don't execute on things without actual statistical evidence and statistical data backing our trade. So for this, definitely not a setup I would take. If you did end up taking this, I would say it's a decent eval trade, just definitely not a funded play in my opinion. 100% not something you'd like to risk money on. And yeah, we ended up printing higher here, so this setup did end up playing out, but that's neither here nor there. And then we ended up coming into this 30-minute fair value gap, which is when we were presented with a 1 minute right here. Obviously this is a huge leg, and we have like 2 5-minute gaps, so I would much rather wait for us to make a lower time frame range for us to then manipulate inside that range to really prove if we were actually going to be bearish in this sense, down back to 930 low here. Lots of people were saying that this low was like protected. This low is absolutely not protected in any way, shape or form. We are in a sell model, and this is not protected by any key level whatsoever, so this is really not a protected low. This is no manipulation really. I was just seeing this as an extra target, to be honest, right? So with this, we end up kind of coming into this 5-minute fair value gap where I was going to set myself conditions, and simply just disrespect versus respect. And during this time, I think we ended up opening a 3-minute fair value gap, if I'm not mistaken. It could have been a 3-minute or a 2-minute. Let me just double check. 3-minute, cool. So I ended up having this 3-minute fair value gap, which I have marked out here. And then on the S&P 500, this is what I liked. We had true manipulation inside this 30-minute fair value gap, and then the S&P 500 actually ended up making a 5-minute fair value gap, right? Which is even better, as you can see right here. So what do we end up doing? Both assets end up retracing into this key level that we make here, failing to inverse, obviously showing the disrespect versus respect, and then this is where I got my entry. Now, I was a little bit kind of hasty with this just because I was super confident with this. Reason being as well was also because of the S&P 500. We ended up displacing through this first 1-minute gap, and the S&P 500 ended up displacing through its only 1-minute gap that I had. So at this point, after seeing this displacing candle, I was super confident in the draw on liquidity being the 930 range low, right? So I ended up taking this trade with around 5 micros or 4 micros, I think. Maybe my entry was like a little bit, it was like here, I think. My entry was like right here. Stop loss was up here, so around 4 micros I risked on this trade, targeting the 930 low. Break even was just at this internal low right here. I was expecting sort of like a flush here, and we ended up taking this internal low, and then unfortunately I do end up getting break even on this candle. And then right after, we decide to completely just chop around for a extremely long time and do genuinely nothing for no reason whatsoever, for us to then eventually deliver to my take profit and then go much lower there. And I think we ended up taking out the full DOL, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, we definitely did not. So yeah, really nothing you can do about that. No matter how I played this trade, it would have been in break even no matter what. And yeah, like, it is what it is. I mean, the only way I could have hit TP on this trade is, of course, if I did not go break even. But in conditions like this, and just in general, that is definitely not the way to go. So obviously we have the sponsored range, and what I mean about the sponsored range, we put in this low. No, where was it? Yeah, right here. So we put in this low, we retraced to 0.62, we had ES retraced to the same, like 0.5 of this new leg. So this is a sponsored leg by the 30 minute. We get clean displacement through this 1 minute for value gap. I was all in on this, was very, very, very confident in the 930 draw, and of course we did end up delivering to that draw just before it took me on a break even, and ended up chopping for around 33 minutes until we delivered to my TP, right? Really nothing you can do about that. Honestly, great trade. I'd probably rate this trade like A. I really, really like this trade. I would take this trade 9 times out of 10. So, yeah. And that's really it. I got off right after this hit my break even. I kind of just watched it chop around and was like, yeah. And then I seen that it delivered to my take profit, and I was like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen, you know? Anyway, that was just really, really obvious draw for me, and I think, yeah, it just is what it is. It's a break-even day, nothing you can do about it. Hopped off after that and continued on with the rest of my day, and yeah, that's literally going to be it. There were the only 2 setups today, everything else was nothing, and yeah, that's it for today's recap, guys. Pretty fast, pretty simple, good trade. Unfortunately ended up getting break-even, so yeah, could have been worse, could have been a loss, etc, etc, but yeah, this was just terrible. Like, July has just been a really, really bad month. We've had other sessions expansion, while New York has just been kind of manipulating and doing some stuff, and then just chopping for like literally ages before we distribute. So yeah, nothing really you can do there. It is what it is. And yeah, that's going to be it for today's recap, guys. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. If you have any questions for me personally, I will have my Instagram, TikTok, and Discord in the bio. And I'm super excited for the future of this channel. Documenting the entire journey to profitability. And yeah, and the next trade recap will be on Monday, because I will not be trading tomorrow because I am working. And yeah, except for that, I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your evening or morning, wherever you are, and I hope you have a blessed rest of your weekend as well. Make sure you chill up on the weekend, and then be ready for next week. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully good price action will come next week, but this week has been shocking. Really, really poor price action this week, so hopefully next week will give us some better. And this week as well, the entire week, there's literally no news whatsoever, so you can expect pretty poor price action, but I definitely don't believe that that's the reason why. It's kind of just other sessions have been doing the job, while New York hasn't, so it is what it is. And except for that, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.